Hey, Arctos here. Today we're looking at the Armageddon box for Warhammer 40k. This is the launch box for 11th edition. Comes with Space Marines and Orcs here on the box art. They're painted up in Blood Angels, but of course you can paint them up however you like. Plenty of miniatures in this, 61 miniatures in all. A few more miniatures on the Orc side than on the Space Marine side, but that's pretty common for these sorts of launch boxes. You also get the core rules, the chapter approved mission deck, the Dominatus campaign deck, data cards for each of the units that come in this box, and of course a transfer sheet, and then the Operation Imperator book as well. Originally, I was not going to pick this up. However, I did get it at a discount, and I looked at the pricing for the cards and the rule book and was like, well, the models then aren't that much more. Objectively, I probably should not have bought this, given the price. However, I was planning to play more of the Custodes, but I started looking at their army, and they're just much less of an elite army than they used to be. And so I decided I'd rather play Space Marines. So let's take a look at the contents. You, of course, get a gigantic bag of bases. Makes perfect sense. So here we have a Space Marine sprue. This is going to be the Ancient, the 3 Bolter Eradicators, and then the Chaplain. Here's the other side of that sprue as well. You can see the banner for the Ancient. This is the sprue that will be the limited one. The Captain and Librarian are on different sprue. I was able to see some of those in person. That was the other thing that pushed me over the edge on getting it, was I was able to see some of them in person. It does seem that there are some extra heads on these, but I'm not 100% sure if that's correct. I see 3 over here for the Eradicators, and then there's some extras over here, so we should be good. That should be the Chaplain skull, and then there is a helmeted version for the Ancient, which is nice. In previous launch boxes, they have only given you like standard push fit, where you don't have anything else, right? So you just get the one head, and it's always disappointing. Here's the Orc Weird Boy. Again, these are all going to be push fit models. Some of these might be the standard box as well. I did look back at the Infernus Marines. This is the War Track sprue, I believe. Next, we have our Banner Knob and Big Boss, as opposed to the War Boss. That should be for the Big Boss. This is, of course, the Banner Knob. This is a pretty nice banner. Has some room if you want to put additional symbols on it, but if you want to leave it as is, it does have some like orc theming on it already, so it's not just a gigantic piece of cloth. Pretty solid orc models in this. Really liking the updated orc sculpts. I don't think I'll be playing orcs, but here we have the Space Marine Captain and the Orc War Boss. Cool big gun here. You know, lots of pieces. This is one where the Captain will probably be unique to this box. I could see that. I could also see him coming out in something else. Because this is in the... It's not on the same sprue, it's just on the same like printing. It may be different. But I would guess this is one that's probably not going to be available outside of the starter set. This one, I believe, will be in the starter set, would be my guess, because then you get your 2 heroes in the same printing. You do get some nice additional heads for the Captain, including an unhelmeted, and then 2 different helmeted ones, both with the laurel wreath, but one with the, I blank on what that's called, but the headpiece. So that's nice. That's a great improvement from their typical push fit stuff. And of course, he has his tactical rock. The Orc War Boss, I don't believe does, but he's pretty big. I was able to see him before I picked this up. So then we have our Space Marine Speeder. Lots of pieces on this sprue, but still relatively compact. It does have 2 riders in it. Alternate weapons that you can attach. I just don't remember what each one is called. We'll see momentarily. But some really nice new vehicle sprue. I'm hoping this is the edition they update some of the faction-specific vehicles. That would be really nice. Here we have some push-fit intercessors. I would guess that if there is a new intercessor box, that it would probably be a not push-fit. But it's hard to say. The Infernus Marines were push-fit. Like the current box you can buy and what came out in Leviathan are both push fit. They're the same stuff. So it's possible if they do a new individual box for the intercessors that they'll also be push fit. But I would guess these will also be in the starter set. So whatever their, like 3 tiers of starter set are, is probably will have the same sprue in it, would be my guess. Probably also have the speeder in one of them. I could certainly see that. I could see it also not being included, but I would guess that it would have the speeder. Here we have our Vanguard veterans with jump packs. These I could see going either way. So like I said, the Infernus Marines are the same as they were in the Leviathan box. I could see that being true for these as well. But I could also see, because this is a 5-man squad, I could also see them being a separate release with more options, because they've done that before as well. Like the Eradicators had their own box when they came out. That was different than the push fit version. We've seen that on this channel as well. It should just be orcs left at this point. So here we have a bunch of orc boys mixed in with Gretchen. That's interesting to me. Normally they don't put those on, but I guess when they release this as its own kit, it will have the Gretchen in there as well. Which I'm not an orc player, so I don't know if that is an improvement over the current situation, as the current Orc Boys kits do not have Gretchen in them. And there should be 2 of those, as you do get a fair number of them. And yep, here we have. And these are also, of course, push fit. You know, with these being push fit, I was thinking about it, and it's like, you know, I'm fine with the push fit. They're generally like good sculpts, good positioning and everything. But it does make it, in my opinion, a little worse for posability, just easy posability. Obviously, you can do kit bashing and stuff with them just fine. It's just kind of how easy is it to do. And so this is the Big Mech DACA rig, which obviously we can see the DACA, which looks pretty cool. I have not seen this in person yet, but it does look pretty cool. But again, it is push fit. The Dreadnought that came in Leviathan was push fit, and I never bought another one to see. I never looked to see if the standard version was also push fit. I think it is. So like this will probably come out as this model, would be my guess. Maybe there's some other options, but I would kind of doubt it. Some extra bases. And then we get another box, actually. And then at the bottom we have our transfer sheet. You see there, blend of Space Marine and Orc. I'll set that to the side there. We have our big box of things. I don't know if I opened that right, but I just slid the side off. It seems to be tearing in spots, but I guess I'm not putting it back together, so it doesn't really matter. So in that other box, we had chapter-approved cards. You can buy these separately. Dominatus cards, also buy those separately. Rulebook, you can buy this separately. Only difference is it will have an Ultramarine on the cover. Cards for the models that come in this box, which will technically be available separately at some point. When the cards come out for the Orcs and Space Marines, they'll technically have those in there. Of course, we also get big instruction booklet for assembly. So for Orcs, you do get some variety. So you can have different Orcs with different of the push fit weapons, you can see. So some variety there. Not a ton, but like even, you know, this boy's war leader knob has some stuff there. But like stuff like the Pain Boy and the Mech Boy won't have those. Oh, the Mech Boy should be on the same as the banner knob. I don't think I mentioned that when we were looking at it earlier. You know, those obviously are, you know, one spot. You have the War Boss. Space Marines assembled. I'm going to say it again, but I really like that they have these guys with helmets now. I don't remember seeing the Librarian sprue. We'll take a look in a second. Let me go through these first. Eradicator, Bolter Squad. Why is he posing with a pistol? That's a choice. I mean, it's fine, but that's an odd pose. I would guess Eradicators will get a new kit. I don't believe this will be just an upgrade sprue for the current Eradicators kit, so I think this will be a new kit compared to the, I think it'll be a separate box. I'm hoping they provide an additional weapon choice in there, than just the bolters. I don't know how many people are going to pick them up. I guess we'd have to look at what they do. But my feeling on eradicators with heavy bolters is that typically in a Marine army, you have enough stuff that you don't need the additional anti-infantry. Unless maybe it does something better against the leaders. Okay, so that's instructions. We'll quickly take a peek back. So, obviously, Captain Sprue. Librarian should be interesting. Okay, so here we have the Librarian Sprue with his rock. And so he's on the same sprue as the Vanguard Veterans, which I don't know how I missed that the first time. Obviously, that cape should stick out as the Vanguard Veterans sprue. But he is intermixed with the Vanguard Vets, which is an interesting choice. So I guess the question is then, will the Vanguard Vets get their own box? Which I would guess, yes. They'll probably have their own box, which means they'll definitely have different stuff available. But this sprue will probably come in one of the starter sets. That would be my guess. I could be wrong on that. This may be one that they only have available in the starter set for a long time. I'm not 100% sure. I hope the Vanguard Vets come out and they have like other weapons and stuff so you can get them separately. It is interesting that they decided to put the Librarian on the same sprue as that, though. Very interesting. But on the other hand, it does stop them from having a super large one of these like they've done in the past, where you have a bunch of stuff that's not obtainable outside of this box. So, one that was, I don't know if it's still a problem. As far as I'm aware, it's still a problem, is the Judiciary that came in Indomitus. So 2 editions ago is still not obtainable on his own. You have to kit bash one if you want to run that hero, which is an odd choice on GW's part. Kind of limiting that. It seems to be that they're limiting that in this set. So let's move now to some of the individual unit cards. We'll just take a quick look at these. We have the Big Mech Daka rig. We have the War Track, Gretchen, the Boys, the Weird Boy, which has psychic stuff. We have the Pain Boy, who can give a unit a 5-up feel no pain. And also can, on critical wounds with the Erdy Syringe, can inflict D6 mortal wounds to non-vehicle units. That's interesting. And the syringe is extra attacks. Then we have the Banner Knob. We have the Big Boss. And then we have the War Boss. And then we're into Space Marines. So we have the Land Speeder, the Eradicator Squad, the Vanguard Veteran Squad with pistols and swords, or power weapons, I guess, are the swords. We have a standard Intercessor Squad. We have our Ancient, our Librarian, can lead a fair number of squads as well. Assault Intercessors, Desolation, Devastator, Hellblaster, and Furnace Intercessor, Stern Guard Vet, and Tactical Squad. Then we have our Chaplain, who can basically just lead Assault Intercessors and Vanguard Vets. Then we have our Captain, who can lead a bunch of stuff as well. Interesting new stuff for these. Then we have the Operation Imperator book. So, a lot of lore stuff. Fold out sections here. Blood Angels. Stuff. Some stuff for Salamanders. Crimson Fists. Ultras, Black Templars, and White Scars. Then a list of all the chapters involved in Armageddon. Some art. Then we have the Orcs. Looks to be mostly just lore, so yeah, pretty much little blurbs on each of the factions. So, interesting choice. Odd. Very different from previous edition. The last 2 editions, at least. Then you get the core rules, which is just rules, no lore, smaller size. This is the new rule book for 11th edition. This is what they're selling. So, much smaller, is cheaper than previous editions. So, that is nice. Then we have the Dominatus cards, which are also available separately. A ton of cards in there. These are for more like narrative style games. So you have more. Let me try taking some of these out and not dropping them everywhere. So you have like Liberators cards and then Aggressor cards. And you have like Battle Honors. So it'll be interesting to see how these play out. There's a little pamphlet on how to use them. So you have briefing cards, location cards, agenda, upgrades, and you have more for a campaign style game. So that will be interesting to see. And then we have the chapter approved deck, which I just tore, so be careful if you don't want to do that. I find these cardboard ones don't really hold very well. You have some tokens. You have a little pamphlet on using the chapter approved with, you know, how to use secondaries, how to create the battlefield. So that's useful. And then we just have a bunch of, you know, twists, deployments, secondary missions, a bunch of those for the defender, and then secondaries for the attacker. And we also have primary mission actions, standard primary mission, locate, yeah, more of those depending on what type of mission you're on, and so on, and priority assets. So looks interesting. These should be available next week, so not too much of a head start compared to previous editions, if I remember correctly. I definitely remember it being a longer window between the launch box and the new stuff, but much closer in this one. Obviously, starter sets and everything won't be out for a little longer, but the cards are out much sooner. So that's the Armageddon box. Like I mentioned, I got this at a discount. I was about 20% off. I did the math on the cards and the rule book. Just the chapter approved cards and the core rule book were an additional $60. So with the Dominatus cards are another 35 on top of that. So the models in this were, with a 20% off discount, were about $150 if you factor out the things I was going to buy separately. Obviously, the Operation Imperator book is completely separate, so I didn't really factor that in. So, I mean, just interested in the Space Marine side, it's a pretty good deal at that point if you were going to buy the other stuff. Obviously, if you don't want either army, it's not a good deal. Just buy the other stuff you want separately. If you find somebody to split it with, obviously that's best. So that's why I wound up picking it up, is, you know, it was on sale, and I decided I was going to play more Space Marines this edition than I was originally thinking to. I just looked through the rules for the Custodes, which is what I was thinking I would play, and realized I did not really want to play them. They used to be a much more elite army than they seem to be currently. Obviously, that could change with points changes, although I think those are out already, and I didn't see anything that really made it different. I will admit, they got me with the hype on this one. So, but I am looking forward to building these Space Marines. I'll get to the Orcs eventually, I think, but I'm not 100% sure when. But that's all I've got for today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.